Hey, what's going on, Headliner Nation? Kyle here with the Fantasy Headliners. And ladies and gentlemen, Week 14 kickoff is just around the corner, and we need to get our lineup set. So, baby, we're jumping into the Dirty 30, my top 30 wide receivers for Week 14. I'm going to break it all down for you, but don't forget to get the most information possible. You watch the start and sit videos from earlier in the week along with these ranking videos because we go a lot more in depth on the start and sit videos, and this is really about showing you who is going to be playing ahead of who. So without further ado, we got to roll because you got a lineup that you have to get set. So let's go ahead and jump into it at number 30. Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju Smith-Schuster. Last week, I don't know what happened with him last week. He got 12 targets. He had 7 receptions. He only had 20 yards. I don't know what's going on with Juju. 10 targets, 7 receptions, 28 yards. So we need more upside from him, but he continues to be one of the safest options here in this offense because he continues to get quite a bit of targets. Deebo Samuel, number 29. Nothing against Brandon Aiyuk, but Deebo Samuel, since coming back, is getting a ton of targets, and I think it's just a matter of time before he starts putting up some bigger games with Brandon Aiyuk on the field. At number 28, Devontae Parker, the dude. Here's the problem with Devontae Parker. He has absolutely no upside with Tua on the field. We need to have Ryan Fitzmagic on the field if we want upside for Devontae Parker. But he's still getting looked at. He's the wide receiver one in that offense. As Tua grows, hopefully Devontae Parker's ceiling does as well. Jarvis Landry, over the last couple of weeks, he's the wide receiver 4. The dude's balling right now. He's playing well. You put him in your lineup right now. He's a great wide receiver 3 option for those of you that continue to hold on to him, that give you even higher upside than that. Back-to-back weeks with scores, 21 targets, 16 receptions over the last 2 weeks. Brandon Cooks, it looks like he missed a potential game-changing concussion. The dude that's had so many concussions already in his career looks to escape another one. Expect him to be back on the field this week. Yeah, he's got decent upside, but for me, there are question marks, and this is kind of my question marks because I don't know if there's a whole lot of upside this week, but you still play them 21 through 30. That's what I'm calling it. It's a long name. We'll work on that later. Brandon Cooks, still like him though this week. Does Kiki QT get the same amount of looks that he did last week? Does he get the same amount of yards? Do they try to run the ball a little bit more? Do the tight ends get involved a little bit more in the game plan this week since they weren't last week? I like Brandon Cooks, but I think he's going to give you like 5 receptions for maybe 70 yards, or he's going to give you 10 receptions for 140 yards and a score. That's my problem with Brandon Cooks right now, a little volatile. Same thing with DJ Chark. The problem is that, there's a guy by the name of Colin Johnson that's been getting some looks from Mike Glennon recently. Now, here's the thing. You know that meme that you see where the guy's walking away with the girl and he's got his head turned around and he's looking at the other girl behind him? That's basically what this is. That's Mike Glennon walking away with DJ Chark, looking at Colin Johnson behind him because he's got some eyes for Colin Johnson right now. I think that I like the DJ Chark matchup. I just think Mike Glennon's he's liking Colin Johnson a little bit too much right now for DJ Chark owners. Michael Thomas at number 24. Yeah, he's got some big games against the Atlanta Falcons, but outside of that, he's not really putting together those big weeks. He's not putting together those big weeks against better defenses. And people make fun of the Philadelphia Eagles right now. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're playing well either, but their defense is playing way better than their offense, and people aren't talking about that. They're just looking at the entire team as a joke right now, and they're not understanding that the defense is actually holding up their end of the bargain. Probably a tough matchup here for Michael Thomas, and the one thing that worries me this week about them playing the Philadelphia Eagles, I think some of Taysom Hill's first kind of instincts are going to be to run the football instead of staying in the pocket and throwing it. Robbie Anderson right now looking at some decent upside this week, but a lot of it hinges on DJ Moore, who's got an ankle injury and is also on the COVID list currently as of this recording with Curtis Samuel. If both of those guys play, then Robbie Anderson, he's going to be like lower to the 30 mark, maybe just outside the top 30 for me. Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore have a little bit more upside than what Robbie Anderson does. But if both of those guys are out this week, or if just DJ Moore is out this week, Robbie Anderson is going to be sitting here, maybe not even a little bit higher. Cole Beasley, when John Brown is out, Cole Beasley is a good bet to see double-digit targets and some decent yardage. Expecting the same thing this week, even though it's a tougher matchup against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's been known to give up some bigger plays and give up some volume out of the slot. That's Cole Beasley's specialty. That's where he's going to be working this week. Cooper Kupp at number 21. Nothing against Cooper Kupp other than the fact that I wish owners, got a little bit more consistency out of him. They're not getting that out of Cooper Kupp right now. If you look at the stats, it is up and down, up and down, up and down. It's the definition of a roller coaster since week 8. When you look at targets, receptions, and yards, 2011, 110 in week 8. Then we go 7, 5, 50, 13, 11, 145, 5, 2, 41, 9, 8, 73. If you look at patterns and you like that, then this week is going to be a down week for Cooper Kupp. Now, I don't really expect that for Cooper Kupp, but the one thing I do expect from Cooper Kupp is that it's going to be a tough matchup that will probably limit his upside a little bit. And not only that, but it looks like Robert Woods has been the guy that's been getting a little bit more looks than Cooper Kupp recently. Looking over at Robert Woods, right there next to Cooper Kupp at number 20, the last 3 weeks, Robert Woods has 15, 12, and 11 targets. He has 12 and 10 receptions in 2 of those 3 games. Now, in week 11 against Tampa, we saw 12 for 130, but then it went down to 70 for 80 and then down to 10 for 85. So, if we're getting about double-digit targets, I need to see about 100 receiving yards. That is my goal. If I'm getting you double-digit targets, I want 100 receiving yards out of you, averaging about 10 yards of reception, because you should be, if you're getting double-digit targets, if you're a good wide receiver, you should be catching right around 8 or 9 of those. So with Robert Woods, hopefully we bump back up towards that 100 this week against New England. But again, just like Cooper Kupp, it's a tough matchup. The upside is going to be limited. With Diontae Johnson, the thing that bothers me with Diontae Johnson right now is he's dropping too many passes. Diontae Johnson, we got to get better at that. Since week 9, he has double-digit targets in all of those games. He has double-digit targets in every game since week 9, but he only has double-digit catches in one of those games. His catch percentage during that time is 60, 45, 75, 61, and 66. Is it because he's dropping too many passes? Is he just not winning those matchups enough? I mean, he's getting enough targets and he's got enough receiving yards during that time, but we need more from Diontae Johnson. We need a little bit more consistency. He's got to be catching more of those balls. That could be coming this week against Buffalo. You know, it is a tough matchup against Buffalo, but the targets have been so good recently, we're going to have him right here at 19 because of that. Tyler Lockett, he's got 9 targets in 3 of the last 4 games. They are starting to look his way a little bit more. It's just not anything that's become very consistent at this point. And I think you can have him anywhere from about wide receiver 10 to a wide receiver 30, and you're going to possibly be right 50% of the time. And number 17, Corey Davis. 432 receiving yards over the last several weeks. Since week 10, 432 receiving yards. That's the most in the NFL. And he's the wide receiver 6 during that time. I've always loved Corey Davis. And if you're looking at me and say, Kyle, 17 is way too low for Corey Davis. 17 isn't low for Corey Davis. 17 is respect. 17 is respect for A.J. Brown and the way that he continues to be such a big play guy. The nice thing for Corey Davis is that he's not seeing wide receiver 1 coverage. A.J. Brown is seeing wide receiver 1 coverage. But at one of these points, you have to expect that defenses are going to try to give Corey Davis a little bit more of a look. They're going to try to contain him a little bit more. Maybe the big plays aren't there, just like A.J. Brown, but he's a very safe play right now. Amari Cooper at number 16. People just don't talk about Amari Cooper enough and the year that he's having. Yeah, it's fallen a little bit since Dak Prescott went out, but right now he is on pace to have possibly the most receptions that he's ever had in a season, and he's going to be very close to having the most yards he's ever had in a season. Also, his catch percentage, 71%. He is catching way more balls this year than he has in the past. He did have a 70% catch rate back in 2018 when he was traded from Oakland to Dallas. But outside of that, we've got 55, 62, 50, and 66. The inconsistencies that have plagued you with Amari Cooper in the past, they're not there right now. Chris Godwin at number 15. Chris Godwin is the safest option for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now. I like Chris Godwin, but Mike Evans has more ceiling than him right now. Mike Evans a couple of spots higher than him, but 19 targets to Chris Godwin over the last couple of weeks. He's just not seeing the touchdowns that Mike Evans is right now. Terry McLaurin, a blip on the radar last week, ladies and gentlemen. I know a lot of you are going to be cautious of starting Terry McLaurin against San Francisco this week, but just remember, prior to last week, he had 90 receiving yards in 4 of his last 5 matchups. He's had 70 receiving yards in his last 6 matchups. He's had at least 7 receptions in 5 of his last 6 matchups. The dude has been a very consistent and very safe wide receiver. Even if you're worried about the upside against San Francisco, last week, throw it out the window. Tough matchup. They wanted to run the football a little bit as well. Obviously, they dealt with the injury to Antonio Gibson. That hurt that. So they had to go away from the game plan. But he was locked down, and trying to train that or switch that game plan up mid-game against Pittsburgh is very, very tough. Terry McLaurin is still a start for me. Mike Evans at number 13. The dude continues to ball out, and he is my Manscaped must start this week because of how often he is finding the end zone. 4 touchdown grabs in the last 3 weeks. 5 touchdown grabs in the last 5 weeks. The gaudy 8-9 reception games, 100-yard games, those are out the window right now, but he's still finding the end zone. And the nice thing about the help right now is that Mike Evans is not seeing nearly as much double coverage, which is allowing him to win in the most important spots, which is the end zone. At number 12, Allen Robinson. He's not sexy by any means, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody with Mitchell Trubisky as their quarterback can't be, but he always has that touchdown upside, and he always has a very safe floor every single week. DeAndre Hopkins this week. Nothing against DeAndre Hopkins. I had him a little bit lower last week, but I'm expecting that same kind of stat line going up against the New York Giants, who have been a lot better recently than what they were to begin the season. The Giants have allowed the 5th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers over the last 4 weeks. And last week, they held Seattle to only 216 passing yards. You always start DeAndre Hopkins, but his stat line of 13 targets, 8 receptions, 52 yards, and a touchdown last week seems more viable to me than looking at like 10 grabs, 100 yards, and a touchdown. I think we see a little bit more limited upside. That's why I have him here at number 11. At number 10 and number 9, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen is the bona fide red zone target in that offense right now. But for me, Justin Jefferson has the higher upside because of his big playability every single week. The guy has only had 2 weeks this year where he has averaged under 10 yards per reception. Since week 9, he's averaged 21, 16, 28, 10, and 13. The dude's up to wide receiver 4 on the season. It's a couple of spots ahead of Adam Thielen, but Adam Thielen is the touchdown guy right now. But Justin Jefferson does have 4 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. He's not seeing the same type of looks in the end zone that Adam Thielen is. When you get to the red zone, that is Adam Thielen's look. He's got 5 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. But right now, Justin Jefferson is the guy that's a little bit on the big play side for me. That's why I've got him a little bit higher. The guy that Justin Jefferson replaced, Stefon Diggs. Maybe you're not looking at Stefon Diggs the same way that you looked at him to begin the season when he had 300-yard games in the first 5 weeks. But over the last several weeks, since week 8, he's had 90 receiving yards in all but 1 game. So just like Terry McLaurin, Stefon Diggs continues to be very, very, very safe, even going up against a Pittsburgh team. Now, Terry McLaurin said the same thing last week, goes to Pittsburgh, and he gets pushed down a little bit. But Stefon Diggs, to me, is better than what Terry McLaurin is, even though Terry McLaurin, in his own right, very, very good. Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones. You can argue who should be 6 or 7. Right now, to me, they're 6A and 6B. It doesn't matter who you have. It doesn't matter who you play. You're going to get pretty similar numbers, I believe. Touchdown upside is with Calvin Ridley a little bit more right now. I think he's being seen as more of a volume play. Julio Jones is going to have some bigger plays, but you play both of them. Hopefully, we can go a week without getting is Julio Jones actually going to play or not. A.J. Brown, talked about him when I talked about Corey Davis already. Obviously with A.J. Brown, the big plays continue to come. I feel like I sit there on a weekly basis. My phone goes off, big play alert, and it's always A.J. Brown's name. Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf, both of these guys, not great weeks last week, but here's the thing with both of them. They both looked human. That's going to happen from time to time with wide receivers. We go right back to him, especially Keenan Allen. He's got such a great matchup this week against Atlanta. We're going with that. And then also with DK Metcalf, we are going to be going with DK Metcalf because that upside continues to be there on a weekly basis. Now, I do want to say something here real quick. This actually just broke in the middle of this recording, so I just want to go back and just mention it really fast. So give me just a second. We're going to go back here to number 13 before going back again. Just got an alert that Mike Evans did not practice today with a hamstring injury. we're going to have to keep an eye on that. He's been limited all week. He did not practice today. We're going to have to keep an eye on that and see if that becomes an issue as the week goes on. So just keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. It just came across my phone as I was recording, so I wanted to make sure that I threw that in there for you to hear. Going back to the top 10 again, DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen got them out of the way. Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, we know both of those guys absolutely ball out on a weekly basis. Two of the best fantasy options at the position right now. Let's take a look at those notable players. Chase Claypool is the start for me this week, but I'm very concerned right now about his snap percentage. I don't know what happened last week, but that snap percentage went way down. Brandon Ayuk, I like him this week. He is a start. I just think we're in for a bigger Deebo Samuel week than we are Brandon Ayuk week. I'm thinking a touchdown's finally going to go Deebo Samuel's way. If Brandon Ayuk still has a decent week, but not that touchdown, he's probably going to be right around 30. He's very close for me right now. Gabriel Davis, I said it before last week, with no John Brown, 70 yards and a touchdown his last 2 games, 68 and a touchdown last week, on the nose. Jameson Crowder, in my start-sit video, I also mentioned this. To begin the season, his fantasy value was propped up by a lot of targets. Those targets are not there right now. Denzel Mims will be out this week, which is always good. That's going to help a little bit. But don't rely on 2 touchdown performances from Jamison Crowder. That's not why we drafted him. We drafted him because of the receptions and the volume of targets that he was going to get. Hopefully, we get some more of that this week. Kiki Cutie, I like him. I'm not expecting 140 receiving yards again, but he is a start again for me this week. And then T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Here's the thing with these two. You can start T. Higgins. He's going to be the safest option. You can start Tyler Boyd. He's going to be the most volatile option. But the big thing about both of these guys is getting them in position to get yards after the catch. I said it in my show last week, and they did exactly that. The bubble screen to Tyler Boyd. He takes the ball to the house, 72 yards. It was his only catch, but it was just enough. That's why he's highly volatile right now. Hopefully we get a little bit more volume for both him and Higgins the rest of the way. There you have it, Headliner Nation. I told you we were going to get through with the Dirty 30 as quickly as possible so you can start setting your fantasy lineups. Do me a favor. If you appreciate the content, hit that like button below. If you got a question about anybody, leave it in the comments. And then, as always, if you're new here to the Fantasy Headliners, hit that subscribe button. Become a part of Headliner Nation today. Appreciate you all tuning into this episode. Stay safe. Stay healthy. I'll catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.